G'day everyone, it's Tim and Mick here from Rapala Australia, bringing a new monthly show that we're going to bring out to you, Rapala Beyond the Bite. We're really excited to do this. You know, a little bit about me. I've been with Rapala for 12 years now. I fished my whole life. Used to do a lot of the tournaments back in the day, but now on the other side, helping create some great new product for hopefully all our tournament and fishermen in Australia to use. So it's been exciting 12 years for me at Rapala. And we've got a pretty cool team here. Probably the most knowledgeable guy I know about fishing is Mick. How about you, Mick?
Yeah, well, I'm the same as Timmy. I've fished pretty much all my life. You know, thanks to the old man, we did a lot of beach fishing in the early days. And then I obviously, as I grew up, I started a bit of lure fishing and started the, pretty much what I believe created probably a lot of my product development skills and all that stuff. I did ABT brim tournaments back in the day, and I learned so much of my skill set back then doing all those kind of tournament stuff. So obviously years have gone past, and lucky enough this guy employed me 4 years ago here at Rapala, and it's pretty much been, you know, a great 4 years. I've learned a lot and been involved with product development to obviously create products for us here in Australia, and it's been a really cool heap of projects that we've done, and I'm looking forward to many more in time to come.
Yep, no, so basically what the show's about, we're going to be talking mainly focusing on Barra in this episode, and we're going to tailor it hopefully from beginner to expert. So if you've been fishing Barra your whole life, like what we say isn't set in stone and won't guarantee work everywhere, but it's our take on fishing, our take on targeting Barra, so hopefully you'll pick up a few tips that you might try and help you catch a few more fish.
Yeah, 100%. And this tonight we're actually going to give away a prize pack for you viewers out there. All you need to do is comment on Facebook or YouTube your favourite Rapala lure, and we're going to, or actually your favourite Rapala lure and what your favourite species is to target on, and we're going to give away a great prize pack at the end for that one.
Yep.
And
That's it up on screen there now. This show we're not, but we'll tune in with some of our pro staff in future shows. We'll also run everyone through the Trophy Hunters and Rookies app, so how they're going at the moment and how they're tracking, what good fish are being caught on what Rapala lures. And we'll give tackle tips on how to use Rapala lures, what gear we like to throw them on, and things like that. So at any time through Facebook or YouTube, throw up a question for us, and at the end we'll have a segment to answer all those questions that we can.
Yeah, so now we'll go to like the type of tackle that we like using for Barra. So we'll go straight to that. Yeah, so we'll start off with reels, and we'll probably much start at the top and the big end for what me and Tim both like using. Rapala distributes 13 fishing in Australia, so a lot of all the bait casters that we use are going to be in that 13 fishing range, and probably both of our favourites are going to be the 300 size reels. This one being the TX3. It's a 300 size. We both like using this big jigging handle. I find it's really good for having a little bit extra power when fighting a fish. Also on some technique specific stuff, it's great for, you know, obviously making the reel turn and making lures dart side to side like a glide bait, or even when you sort of want to recover line too, the power on these reels is really good with that big handle. Another good thing with it, with that reel, it's got a 20-pounder drag. It's got a really light cast iron carbon frame, so it's really great to use. Obviously, Barra gear, a lot of it's quite heavy and can be quite strenuous, but that's like quite a light reel for the size. Another one in that pretty much in the same size again, which we both like using, is that A3. It's a black reel. It's got brass gears inside it, so it's actually a little bit more powerful. So it's great for, you know, fighting real big fish in the timber or something like that. It's going to have a lot more power.
Yep, so those bigger reels are great for throwing bigger, heavier lures and things like that. I still like using the 200 size reel when throwing, say, jerk baits or lighter lures around. Like the A2 is probably my go-to in the range at the moment. It's got the brass gears as well. It's got a really big drag on it.
Yep.
So you can cast with a lighter rod all day and not get, you know, tired of throwing it. So that's my go-to 200 size reel.
Yeah,
what do you
and
like using?
I'm sort of similar. I actually really like the Z slide. So if when you go fishing, if you're fishing in the rivers or if you're fishing in the dams, if you're getting in situations where you want to change your lures quickly, you're going from a little bit bigger of lure or down to a smaller lure, or if you're in an area where all of a sudden you've got a wind coming at you. It's a really cool feature with this reel. It's actually got like a slide system on the side. So it's actually got this lever. So obviously once you change your lures, or if, as I said, with that wind condition or something, it's just a matter of actually just sliding that thing down. And basically what it does, instead of pulling the reel apart and taking that side plate off, it's pretty much similar to like clicking that magnetic spool about 2 times. So as Tim said, if you're fishing those smaller jerk baits, or you know you're downsizing your lures, this is my pick by far. It's it's got that cast iron carbon frame, so it's super light in the hand, and it's a dream to fish with. And it's, as I said, fatigue wise, it's a great reel for using it all day.
So we've spoken a lot about bait casters, but you don't have to. I know not everyone is confident using bait casters or fishing them. So thread line reels are still great for fishing for Barra, whether it be in the rivers or impoundments. Basically, I like using a 3,000 to 4,000 size reel. And, you know, I think the spinning reel allows you to do big, long casts really easily. So if you're fishing a weed edge, throwing a surface lure, want that really big, long cast, it's a good way of doing it. But also, look, I had my eyes open up last year fishing with Jacob Wheeler, and there's a new technique called strolling, which we'll run through a little bit later. But basically, it's shaking your plastic, and I find it a lot easier to do on a spin reel. So, you know, there's techniques where I'd prefer spin over bait cast, and there's time where I prefer bait cast over spin. But definitely, 3,000 to 4,000 size reel will get you out of trouble to go Barra fishing.
100%.
Usually on the spinning reels as well, you can fish a little bit lighter. So if you're fishing open water, mud flats, things like that, you know, you don't have to have that heavy line and heavy drag to chase them. So that's the reels covered. What sort of rods do you like using?
When it comes to rods, it depends on the sort of area that you're fishing. If you're fishing your impoundments, you and me are pretty much similar in the same rod that we use. We use a little bit longer rod, around that 7.4 mark, or 7 to 7.4 mark. And most rods that was going to be well suited is anything in that sort of 10 to 20, 12 to 25 pound range. But when it comes to moving back into the rivers or throwing your jerk baits and stuff like that, I'll come back in the length. So I'll use something that's probably around that sort of 6.8, 6.10 mark. It's great for fishing, as Scone said, using jerk baits. Your rod tip is always going to have that downward motion, so you don't want that rod slapping the water. So that shorter rod, also the shorter rods are also good for, you know, your technique for cracking those lures is a lot better with that shorter rod. And as far as spin rods, again, comes down to preference, but mainly something in that 7 foot range. And again, technique specific stuff. If you're going to be if you like throwing vibes or bigger hard bodies or something on it, or whether you go back down to like Timmy's action that he was doing with the strolling, he's probably going to come back down again in the power of a rod. And you're using something around that 10 to 17.
Yeah, 8 to 14, 10 to 17. So if you're presenting a lighter lure, you're fishing open water, you can go a little bit lighter on them. But I remember going back fishing the dams in the early 2000s where, you know, we were all 6 to 6 sort of 4, maybe 6.6 was a long rod. So I think it's changed over the last 20 years. And like you said, I like using the longest rod I can when we're doing it. But like you said, if you're fishing a river, snags, bring that rod tip down. And I'd probably have to use a shorter rod than you because I'm closer to the water level. So.
and again, a lot of it comes down to whatever you're throwing too. So there are a lot of different rods out there, and there's technique specific rods. But if you only have 1 or 2 rods in your arsenal, definitely something around that 10 to 20 pound. And if you want to throw some of that smaller stuff in the rivers, something in that 10 to 17 pound range will definitely suit most scenarios for barra fishing.
So a heavy flathead rod down here, southeast Queensland, you know, dewy rod, thready rod, anything like that will do the job. So that's rods and reels covered. Let's get on to now to one of the most important things, I think, is your line. We like using the suffix 832.
Yeah.
So basically it's an 8 carrier braid, so that's what the 8 stands for. The 32 is it's got 32 weaves per inch. So it's a really, really tightly compacted braid. It's got a gore fibre running through it, which gives it really, really good abrasion resistance. And I think that's the key, and that's why 832 is so popular. It's been a go-to line for a decade now up in Darwin. That's where it probably was. That's its homeland for suffix, really, in Australia for barramundi fishing. But it's spread around Australia now, and a lot of the boats you see fishing the Barra Tour and stuff will be throwing that 832 because it's just such a confident line for so many people. And it's got that abrasion resistance.
Yeah, 100%. And going, obviously, line classes, when you're using those bigger 300 size reels, generally you're throwing, as we said, a lot bigger lures and bigger presentations. So something in that sort of 40 to 60 pound range is pretty much what we'll have on our reels. And obviously the structure that you're going to be fishing, if you're fishing really heavy structure, heavy timber, you know, real snaggy rock bars, all that kind of stuff, that 40 to 60 pound is what we would mainly run on these big reels. Jumping down to those 200 size reels, I generally have something from 30 pound, probably 30, 40 pound on those reels. Obviously going down in line class, it also helps casting some of those smaller lures. Obviously, if you've got sort of 50 and 60 pound line on some of these smaller reels, you're obviously not going to fit as much line on them, but also it's going to aid in casting. So that's one thing. Another reason why we go down in line, the poundage of line is more so about helping you with casting at distance and casting accuracy sort of thing. So
that's right. And then stepping to the spinning reels. Basic with the spinning reels, I run 20 and 30 pound 832 on my spinning reels. And like you said, the thinner the line, so on that strolling technique we'll talk about a little bit later, using light jig heads, you want your lure to get down as deep as possible, as quick as possible, so that thinner diameter braid will get down there, but you can still be confident that the 20 pound 8, it breaks a lot higher than 20 pound.
I was just about to say that. That's one thing with that suffix is it might say 30 pound on the packaging, but we can guarantee you that it breaks a fair bit above that 30 pound. So
that's pretty good. So that's and then obviously the last bit of the puzzle
is your leaders, and again comes down to what sort of area you're going to fish. Both of us like using fluorocarbon and monofilament lines. I probably use fluoro a fair bit more because I do a lot more swim baits and fishing some of those bigger jerk baits in the trees. Obviously with Timmy's technique, with the some of the open water stuff, and also with some of the jerk baits that you want to get to suspend, that monofilament line is what will definitely aid in that. And also on the other end of the scale, if you are fishing some of those smaller jerk baits and you want to get that lure a bit deeper, switching over to fluorocarbon can help sink that line too. So it'll actually help bring that lure down in the water column a little bit better.
So basically fluorocarbon sinks, monofilament floats generally. So if you're throwing surface lures, I like throwing mono because that'll float. Because if you find yourself using a surface lure and you're using fluorocarbon, you might pause it for a while. When you go to work it again, you find your lures getting pulled under. That's because you've got fluorocarbon line. So if you have mono line, it's floating there. You pause it for a while, you start working it straight away. If it's a walk the dog lure, it'll start walking straight away. And poundage, like I probably would never tie on under 50 pound leader in either. And I only go up to about 80, but I know guys go to 100, 120 pounds.
Yeah, and again, if you're one of those guys that do fish those big lures and get in on that heavy cover, you are going to obviously up your leader. And then obviously you might be in an area where there's really big fish and you're getting, destroyed on some of that lighter line. Well, the most obvious thing to do is just obviously up the leader. If you're getting a lot of fish chafing you off, just up that leader size.
And then also, because we're using such heavy leader and sometimes we're using smaller finesse lures, I always like tying loop knot on it. So onto the lure, so that'll give it the most amount of freedom. I used to use a few snap swivels and fast hatches, and in the ABT tour last year I had a great bite. Bang, yep, got him. And he's obviously implosion fed it, spat it out, rolled it off the snap and gone. So I loop knot everything now. It only takes one mistake like that
100%.
to happen. And then with your leaders and loop and main line, what do you like using to time together?
Yeah, well, now these days, obviously, with some of the lines and some of the, if you've got smaller guides on your rods, definitely the FG knot. And the good thing with these days, there's obviously so much information out there on the internet. So if you've never tied an FG knot, definitely jump online and Google an FG knot and learn it, because they definitely are a great knot for strength, and also they're great for going through the guides a lot of the time. Back in the day, we used to tie doubles with Albrights and stuff like that, but definitely nowadays go and learn that FG knot, because I think it's one of the premier knots when it comes to barra fishing.
Well, I must admit I was a slow uptake on that. I did watch a few YouTube. I couldn't really tie them really well, and I was still tying a double to Albright knot, but I got myself a FG Whiz, got on the YouTube, shows you how to use it, and hands down the easiest way, I think, to tie an FG knot. Took me from a Gumby to a... Well, I can tie them for Jacob Wheeler now.
I was about to say that. There's a bit of a rumour where you sat and tied them on the back of the boat at night while he was catching.
So I can tie them for the world's best, so it's all right. But I still like to, from my old Albright days, I used to always put a bit of super glue on the knot, and I continue to do that with the FGs. And touch wood, haven't had one unravel on me yet. So it's a good knot to tie.
Yeah. So
those were our Barra outfits. Let's talk a little bit now about what Rapala lures we're going to use and why.
Yep. So I'll probably much start off, and pretty much most times when I go barra fishing, whether it be in some of the river systems or the dams, I'll always pretty much tie a swim bait on first. I really like tying on a swim bait. They're a good searching lure, and depending on where you go, a lot of the times I don't mind starting off with a smaller lure. So Crush City has been out for a couple of years now, and we developed the heavy hitter. I actually developed this lure pretty much around mangrove jack fishing, but the action of the lure is well suited for barramundi. It has that big rolling action, but as I said, going back to the size of it, a little small lure is obviously a great tool to find. If there's fish in the area, you might catch some smaller fish first, and if you are in an area where you're starting to catch those bigger fish, definitely upgrading to that bigger 5.5-inch heavy hitter. And the thing with that 5.5-inch heavy hitter, we designed this more so for a lot slower retrieve. So when we went through the design process, we really wanted this lure to have a really good rolling action at slow speed. Going back, as I said, to the little 3-inch, and we've got a 3 and a 4-inch heavy hitter. These were designed a little bit differently. They were actually designed that you could fish them a fast pace and a slow pace, whereas the big guy was more around the barramundi and is more about that really slow retrieve. And the thing with this lure I really like, you can use it in many different scenarios. You can obviously use it along weed edges, finding those fish in deeper water, those suspended fish in amongst the timber. It's a very versatile lure. You can obviously it's a matter of just matching the jig head to suit the water depth you're fishing, or if you have some great technology, you'll be able to see where those fish are in the water column, adjusting your weights to get your lure to get that heavy hitter down to wherever they're sitting, and pretty much put it right in front of their nose. So that would definitely be my number one pick when I first go anywhere barra fishing, is a swim bait.
Yeah, and it's good. Mick started with us about a month before we started this whole Crush City process. And you have a look at some of the shapes we released in the first year, the Creeper, the Imposter. You would have thought they were the hardest to get right. The heavy hitter was by far the hardest for us to get right, because Mick was very, very picky about the action it had to have. We went through almost 10, I think, sample sets to get the right action. We swam every paddle tail on the market, and hands down, I think for the size of them, they've got more body roll than other lures on the market. But then again, for the 5.5 inch, which we released last year, it wasn't just a matter of upsizing the lure. Right. So if you pick it up, you can see the tail wrist on it is a lot thicker. So because it's a bigger lure, I had to put a bigger tail on the back. We had to really increase that tail wrist there. So when that tail turned, it really drives that body to roll. So it puts, even though it's a small finesse style lure, it puts a lot of vibration out the water and brings the fish in. So it's, you know, our whole mantra for the whole Crush City range was no compromise. We didn't compromise with that. And I think, you know, with the Trophy Hunters app, with a lot of the results we've seen, there's been some cracking fish caught on them.
Yeah, for sure.
So from the heavy hitter, we'll go to another soft lure that Rapala has just released recently, which is the soft Peto. So Peto means beast in Finnish, so catches big fish. So we've released this. This is the 18 and 22 centimetre versions of these. So, you know, a big swim bait. But unlike the heavy hitter there, they've got more of a shimmy to them than a big body roll. Yep. So it's, even though it's a bigger lure, I think it's a bit more of a finesse presentation. So these come unrigged like this. Basically, we're fitted up with a big heavy jig head with a, say, a 8.0 in the smaller one and a 9 or a 10.0 in the bigger one. I like to run it with a chain system underneath, so just a split ring, swivel split ring to a treble on it, and use it as a search bait, like to cover a bit of ground. But, you know, when we get on those points on dark, those fish fuddling through, it's really good to, you know, put a heavy head on it and roll the bottom and cover the ground with it. And I think that's one thing with live sonar technology. Some people love it, some people hate it. You know, for me, I've learnt so much about lures, fish behaviour, but also lures. Like, you sit there, you cast your lure out, you watch it go down to the bottom, start winding, you think you're slowly rolling it along the bottom, and she's coming up. So you've either got to slow down or put a heavier jig head on it. So keep an eye out for these. We've got a couple of trick new models of the Petos coming out at after this year, and the range will go from 2 to 5 maybe. Yeah, a
little bit of one of those ones. Probably the next thing I really like and had quite a lot of success at Mondi last year was our SXRD11. So it's basically it's a jerk bait. Had a lot of success with this in the timber, and this colour, the roll colour, was by far the pick of the bunch, because at Mondi there's a lot of garfish in the water, and when you see this thing in the water and you see a gar, there's a fair good resemblance between the two. And the thing I was doing with this lure, and again, you could see the fish behaviour in the trees. I was basically casting in on the treetops, and one of the things, it's really hard to get your head around sometimes when you barra fishing, especially in the impoundment stuff, was the amount of time you actually suspend that lure. And this one particular trip I had, we had quite a lot of success. I was casting into the trees. I could see fish basically would move along this one little tiny tree line. So I'd basically punch a cast out in front of them, crack the lure down to its depth. They'd sort of dive around that 2.5, 3 metre mark. So I'd get the lure pretty much right in that zone, and I was just doing the tiniest little tap on the lure, and I was letting it sit there for sometimes nearly up to 20 seconds, and it just doesn't feel right. But then all of a sudden, 18 seconds into that pause, all of a sudden it just crack and it just take off. So it's a really, really cool way to fish them. Also in the Barra, one of the Barra tours we did a couple of years ago, we had quite a bit of success at Kinchin on those open water fish. But definitely one of those lures you want to have a go at. Not only if you're not sort of that great at casting, these things troll really well as well. So if you like trolling the main basin, this thing's just a matter about throwing it out. As I said, they pretty much dive around that 2 to 3 metre mark. If you want to put your line out a little bit further, obviously when it goes to trolling, obviously the further your line's out on your diving lures, you will be able to get your lure down a little bit further. So that's just a little bit of a tip. If you like your trolling, you want to get it down a little bit deeper, just let a bit of line out, and the lure will go down. But definitely something you want to go and have a check out is that SXRD11, because it's a cracker when, as I said, once you get those fish out in those treetops, this is one of the lures you want to have in your box. And it comes standard with the 3x strong trebles on it, and it'll suspend in fresh water straight out of the packet. Yep. So it makes it's a
it's a great beginner jerkbait and lure for
Yeah,
them.
so it's one of those ones if you're not really up to changing your hooks and rings and understanding which ones are going to do to suspend, that one you don't have to touch it. You pretty much buy it, chuck on, put on about a 50-pound leader in that mono leader, and it'll suspend perfectly for you.
Oh, sweet. Well, the next one I'm going to jump into is the Shadow Wrap Glide. So this is a pretty unique little jerkbait. Love it. Caught some cracking fish on it up at Tinaroo in the pre-fish last year, and it's a pretty unique little glide bait. I know guys have had good success on big flathead with them. Some really big toga caught on them as well. But what's unique about this one is they've got a little. I probably should have loosened it off before. But a little screw system on the bottom, so that's a heavier one on there now. So when I fished it at Tinaroo, I actually took the weight off it altogether, so I had no weight on it. We were fishing in under a metre of water in churned up muddy water, fishing it really slowly, and with no weight on it, it'll sink really, really slowly. Yep. So you can fish above weed beds, things like that. It'll come standard with I think it's a 7.5 gram weight on it. So, good if you want to fish it slowly, you can probably get down to 5 or 6 foot and comfortably fish it. But you can buy tungsten screws for it up to 15 grams. So it's a 45 lure. You can make it 60 grams and have it sink. Because of where the weight's positioned, it'll sink perfectly horizontally. And, had fish follow it. I was up at Mondi the other day, didn't convert them, but had them down at 25 foot. So it's a little bit of weight to get down there, but it's just presenting something a little bit different to those fish. So I think these are going to account for a heap of big fish going forward. And I think glide baits catch big fish.
Yeah, I think it's in any of those areas or systems that have those big bony brims. It's got that bigger profile. So again, it's one of those ones that's about matching the hatch. So in some of the dams, is going back to what I said about the SXR D11. It's a great garfish profile. Because Mondi's got a lot of gar in it, but as you go to some of those northern dams, as Timmy was saying, we're at Tinaroo, but a lot of them have those bony brim in it. So it's a good profile to match the hatch as far as the bait that's in the system is concerned.
So those tungsten screws will come as an aftermarket part, but they'll also come with 2 tails as well. So they'll come with a bright tail and a more natural tail, coloured tail as well. So if you want to keep it a little bit more finesse. So...
Probably my next one is similar lure to what I showed you before was the SXR D11 is the Xrap, saltwater Xrap in the size 10, 12 and 14. Again, as I said, talking about the profile of bait that's just in the system, it's just a matter of if you've got big mullet or if you've got smaller mullet, little potty mullets in the system, obviously it's a matter of just tuning, using the right size lure to suit the area. But with these, again, all of them standard out of the packet suspend. Some of them you might want to upgrade your hooks on if you are chasing some big fish in the trees and stuff. But they've got a really good slash bait action. Again, you control them. You can either slow roll them if you're not that great at that jerking technique. You can just slow roll them. But pretty much probably the best technique is really that cracking that lure. They're one of those lures that you crack them pretty hard and keep them moving through the water column. And they've accounted for a lot of big fish over the years. A lot of tournaments back in the early days were won at Faust on those, especially on that can't even say it, that saltwater Xrap 10 and 12.
Yep, and I think dam with the lot of garfish in it as well, because that's a bit thinner profile, so it matches those garfish pretty well.
And they've all got that really good flash to them as well, so it obviously gets a little bit of attention a lot further with that flash in them.
And probably the best way, I think, to target any fish, be it brim, bass, barra, tuna, anything, is on the surface.
100%.
So we've got a couple, I know we like you, a couple of them. A few years ago, we released the Precision Pencil. Available in 3 sizes, but the 127 and the 107 are probably more popular sizes for the Barra. Walk the dog action, so they come standard with good hooks on them.
Yep.
You might want to upgrade them a little bit, but basically what I mean about walking the dog action is it's a stick bait, so you impart the action on the lure. So as you're winding in, you're working the rod tip and you want that lure to swim side to side. So along with that, we've got releasing it after this year, so we're not available in the shops yet. We've got the Jowler as well. So this is a walk the dog lure as well, but it's got a little cup face on the front there, so it actually spits water as you're walking it. So a little bit different to that one, spits a little bit more water, you know, creates a little bit more presence in the water, so it'll probably call an active fish in from a little bit further away. Generally speaking, you know, your surface lures, not as much a middle of the day. I know they catch them on frogs and stuff during the daytime, but walking the dog lures like this, prime time.
Around that change of light.
Change of light. First light, last light, but also some of the darkest nights you can have, can't see your hand in front of your face. Around some of the weed edges, you'll catch some
and
really big
that
barra.
new Jowler too, if you can hear, it's got one big single knocker in it. And then that, as Timmy was saying, it's because it's got that big single knocker, it obviously calls fish from a long distance. Going back to precision pencil, I've actually caught a few barra on these at Kinchin. They're one of those lures that's just really easy. If you're a beginner at doing walking the dog style lures, this one is really easy to do. It's just a matter of just basically cracking your rod tip down, and this thing just, you know, obviously the faster you crack the rod tip down, the tighter the action of this lure will be. And if you do you slow your action down, it'll actually get a lot wider action to it. So if you are in your natural rivers and all that kind of stuff, and you've got your favourite snags, or you've got a snag coming up, best thing you do is cast it right into the snag, and just do those small or slow rod tips down first. What that will do will actually keep the lure in that strike zone a lot longer. And then obviously once you come out from the fish, once you've come away from the snag, if you've got a fish following you, or you've got something speeding it up, that will create a reaction bite. So that's just another little tip when it comes to walking the dog lures. If you're sort of fishing a certain area and you, as I said, a snag, slow your retrieve down, and as I said, it'll walk really wide. But if you want to cover a lot of water and cover, say, a weed bed or something like that, that's when you do your fast retrieve, and it'll actually tighten up that movement, and basically call those fish out from under the weed edges.
And last but not least that I want to talk about is, if you'd asked me this a year ago saying this is going to be the lure of the Barra Tour, I would have said you're dreaming. But Jacob Wheeler had a different idea to that. I had them packed in the boat, but we didn't use them the way I thought we'd use them, is the 7 and the 5-inch Crush City jerk. So had them packed more to probably fish around weedless and fish around weed and stuff like that. But Jacob, being super confident with forward-facing sonar, does a lot of his bass fishing in the States with that forward-facing sonar. You know, came over here, talked to the guys. A lot of the guys said it won't work. Barra moved too quickly. You got to use perspective mode. We tried that for a while. We got lucky enough to get one of the new Mega Live 2 Humminbird units to put on the boat. Got it going in forward facing, and the rest is history. I learnt more in that 10 days on the water than I think I've learnt in the last few years, and I think he's taught a lot of Australians as well. We've all been barra fishing for a long time. He'd never caught one before he'd come over here, and away we went, and he caught a heap of fish. But I suppose what was more different about it, not just the lure, the way he fished it, the little amount of hooks he had on it. I know as Australians, we go barra fishing, we try and put as many trebles and as many hooks on those lures as possible. This is how he fished it. So we'd find the fish on forward-facing sonar, and the key was, I think, having the transducer on the electric. So I've got an Ultrex. So by turning you can turn it because it's a really narrow beam. You get that barra in the line, and you'll hear guys say, look, you see the diamond? When you get that side on it, really, really bright. He could drop these right on their nose and just shake it above their nose. And you can see the lure in the water go side to side, and pretty much a lot of the fish ate it down, but every other one had it hooked right in the corner of the mouth. And because we're trying to use the lightest weights possible, so we're using a quarter, 3/8, a half, up to 3/4 if we're trying to target a big fish about to swim under the boat. But yeah, it just it blew me away. He probably jumped 2 fish off out of probably 60 or 70 he caught for those 10 days of fishing. Whereas when I'm using trebles, I jump a lot more off. So I suppose we're always learning. Live sonar, obviously is changing the game as well. But I suppose this Strolling Techniques, I think a lot of people are using it now with the forward-facing sonar, and it's a really effective technique to catch them. So looking forward to getting back up there and doing more of it.
100%. I'd missed a trip that we were going to go on recently, and I've been watching all social media and all that stuff of people catching Barra, and it's pretty annoying that we haven't been back up there. So
yeah, well, I think having spent that time with Jacob, the last couple of trips I've done to Mondrian, I think almost every fish has been caught on, a couple on other lures, but every fish has been caught on that white 7-inch jerk. So that's now my confidence Barra lure, which a year ago I would have said you're dreaming. So these are a few of our go-to Rapala lures. I think if you've got a couple of these in your tackle box, it'll cover you for a lot of situations, and you can't go wrong.
100%. So we've just come out for a quick morning session on Kinchin Dam, and we're throwing the precision pencil in the bigger size, the 128mm. And they're a great lure for casting right up on the weed edges. It walks a dog really easy, got great acoustics. So if you want to go and chase some Barra out on those impoundments, get out there in the early morning or late afternoon on that low light period, cast right up on the weeds, and you'll get some good surface action on that Rapala precision pencil. It's a nice little Kinchin Barra first up in the morning, just casting this weed edge and that big precision pencil. Just walked really slowly. We've only just come in, 2 casts, 2 buffs, and just got this little fella. So
G'day, now we're going to talk about probably one of my favourite lures. The first fish I ever caught on a lure was the north arm of the Brunswick River down at New Brighton there. It was a flathead on a 5cm Rapala shad wrap in silver. So shad wraps have been around since 1982. They're great fish catching lures, but I suppose the issue with them, and I know we did a lot of mangrove jack fishing with my brother up at Hinchinbrook when we're back in the 90s. Great fish catching lure, balsa lure. Sometimes you get 1 jack out of them, sometimes you might get 5, but they destroyed the lure. So I suppose now working at Rapala, one of the best aspects of the job for me is being able to have input into lures and helping design lures that are going to be Australia tough. And last year at AFTA, we released the Shad Wrap Elite Heavy 95. So this is a beefed up version of the original Shad Wrap. It's got full wire through construction between the front and the back trebles, which I can show here. And we've got the bibs to go a lot further into the body of the lure. So we've caught a heap of big Barra on these, never had an issue with them coming apart or breaking or anything like that. Standard with 3x hooks, so out of the box, they'll work perfectly for you. And I think the key is that they're a timber lure. And that's one unique thing with Rapala over a lot of the other big lure companies and stuff is it is a timber lure. So I like using these as a suspending jerkbait. Obviously timber floats, and we made the decision to make it float in both salt and fresh water. So basically, you know, that because of the different densities of water, you can't have a suspending lure in both. So we've made it float in both, and then I found that with 1 gram of sticky weight, if you put it on the lure, it'll then suspend in fresh water, and then another half of those to suspend it in salt water. But, you know, not everyone just uses these as a suspending jerkbait for Barra. Look, I know you love it as a jack lure on bridges. You know, we've got more of a square bib on it now, so if you are snag bashing with it, throwing around mangroves, it'll deflect better and less likely to hook up. But fishing for Barra in the impoundments, where I've caught, that's most of the fish I've caught on these, is I put that sticky weight on it there to make it suspend. You can play around with it a little bit, add a little bit more, a little bit less. But also, if you want it to dive deeper or shallower, it can where you put that sticky weight. So if you want it to suspend perfectly straight like that, throw it just behind that first front hook. If you wanted to suspend it with the nose down a little bit, put it in front of that front hook and the bib. So basically it'll suspend in the water like that then. So every time you wind that lure, it's going to dive deeper and deeper. And like we were talking about before, I fish it with fluorocarbon leader. So that fluorocarbon sinks. I want it to dive deeper and deeper. That'll get it down. You know, on a standard cast, it'll get down 3 to 4 foot deeper by putting the weight there than it will there. So, and another...
So cool thing, Timmy, you might be about to touch on it, but a cool thing about Rapala, and obviously we're one of the only companies that still do timber lures. Timber sometimes can be something that could be the difference between catching a fish. You know, like areas where they cop a lot of pressure, you know, in a tournament or that sort of situation where fish have been copping heaps of pressure, they're hearing noisy lures. That timber has a totally different acoustics underwater, and sometimes that can be the difference between getting a bite or not getting a bite. So that's another cool thing with the Shad Rap Elite.
Yep, and knowing that it's Aussie tough now sort of thing. So, you know, it's you can confidently go throw that. And like you said, you know, every other brand out there's a lot of local lure guys who'll make timber lures as well. But like every other, like people throwing, I don't even want to say brands, but other noisy, rattling plastic lures, it's given them something they haven't seen, probably more similar to the acoustics of a bait fish underwater. So basic my timber talk and tip is if you're throwing a conventional lure, not getting any bites, don't be scared to tie on a Shad Rap Elite. Bit of a different presentation, might be the difference between catching a fish on a trip and not catching one.
100%. So up to this week or this month, my tackle tip is going to be on preparation. One thing with Barramundi is they're one of those fish that will pretty much find any kind of error in your tackle. So I can't stress enough, before I go on any trip, or most of my styles of fishing, the biggest thing I do is I'm always going through my tackle, going through my rods, my line, my leaders, making sure everything is perfectly up to scratch. Going back to what I said about my swim baits, you know, each trip I'm obviously rigging up all these different systems off my jig heads. I'm making sure I've got brand new trebles on there. I'm making sure I've got the right poundage of swivel on there, or upgrading any split ring on any of the lures that I'm going to be using. So probably I can't stress enough how important it is to, you know, your preparation is key when it comes to Barramundi. You know, you obviously don't want to go spending all that money if you're traveling a long distance, or if you've never caught a barra in your life, and your actual tackle failure is the reason for it. And like, all it takes is, you know, a couple of days before you go away. I'm probably a bit more OCD. I do it for weeks before I go away on a trip. I'm always in my fish and tackle room. I'm always basically putting new trebles on my jig heads, on my hard bodies. And as I said, if my main lines, you know, I pull off 10 or 15 metres off, so I've got fresh line, and obviously having your leaders and adding everything up to scratch. So, and
it's not just before the trip as well. It's while you're fishing. You know, make sure you always check your leader. Yep. Make sure you always check your hook points, because, you know, if you hook a barra right in the top of with a jig head, sometimes you can roll that point over, and you don't want to miss 3 or 4 bites. Go, wonder what's happening, and then roll and see you've got a roll point on your jig head. And same thing, if you get a bite and it doesn't hook up, check your leader, because I've been bit before. Didn't even feel the hooks, you know, and then it's been chafed that far up the leader. So I think the more, you know, critical you can be checking your gear, the more fish you're going to catch.
Yeah, just obviously just paying attention all the time, and that's exactly right. Because barra are one of those things they're implosion feeders, and they're so fast at putting a lure in their mouth and spitting it out. So having the sharpest hooks and having your tackle up to scratch, well, obviously the sharper hooks will help penetrate inside their mouth or on the outside of their mouth. So making sure everything is up to scratch, that's my tip for this month.
Well, before I get into my tackle tip, let's just remind you we are going to give away a prize pack this week on the show. Basically, you've just got to comment in Facebook or YouTube what your favourite Rapala lure is and what species you're going to target on it, and we'll Jesse will draw a random winner out at the end that we'll shoot a prize pack out to. But basically, my tackle tip this week is on the Rapala Xrap Peto. Let's have a look at the video now. G'day, it's Tim Morgan from Rapala VMC Australia, and today I'm going to talk to you about an exciting lure that we've got in the Rapala range, the Xrap Peto. The Peto is designed for Northern Europe for pike fishing, but there's some great applications down here in Australia. We've had it out for a few years now, and it's been really popular on things like Murray cod and Barramundi and big flathead. However, it's a fairly light lure, and you know the applications for it were pretty limited. We've worked with Dan Stead from Impact Tackle, and we've come up with a cracking new little system on it, which is the forward weight system here, which is an aftermarket product for the Xrap Peto. And basically what this does is it gives it a bit extra weight, but this extra weight also gives it extra action. It gives it really good body roll, really good tail thump. When you cast it out on the drop, it's heavy enough now to get a really good roll on the drop, and our native predators find it irresistible. We're currently up in North Queensland fishing the Barra tour, and this lure has caught us some trophy size fish. You do have to modify it a little bit because it's designed for Northern Europe. Basically, we upgrade the trebles and the split rings on it to be Barra strong, and to fit this little weight on the front, it's really easy. Take the front split ring off, it clips over the nose, clicks over the gut there, put the split ring back on, and you're ready to go out and catch a PB Barra. So the cool thing is we filmed that segment there and then went out, we did the Barra tour, this was 2 years ago, went out, I think within an hour of filming that, I got the fish of the trip on it, which was I think a 122. Yeah. So for me, the important thing is I used to use these Petos with swinging chin weights on them. And to be honest, I was never entirely happy with them because the action wasn't as good as without a chin weight on it. So Dan from Impact Tackle made these ones here. They're 3/4 of an ounce, and actually having that chin weight fitted hard to the lure, it actually improved the action of the lure. It made it swim better, and a lot of the time for Barra, you don't want to be rolling really slowly near the surface. This then allowed us to fish it as a swim bait, deeper down in the water column. We could slow roll it in 15 foot on the weed points on those light changes when the Barra are out actively hunting those bigger bony brim and garfish and things like that. So definitely I've caught my biggest Barra ever on it. I think it's 125 locally down here, but some cracking fish in the impoundments on them as well. So, you know, for me, a swim bait like this is definitely a trophy fish catcher.
Yeah, as Timmy was talking about with that weight, probably one of the other things which is a really good key with it is going back to, again, talking about your sounders and finding where those fish are in the water column. The cool thing with that, adding that weight to it, it actually is a really good, a really good tool for actually keeping your lure in the strike zone. So if you see you've got fish suspended in like 3 or 4 meters, say you're in the basin or even in some of your main creek channels, that weight on it, you can actually count your lure down or watch your lure go down on LiveScope, and then you can actually pretty much keep that lure at that same depth the whole way through. So that was another really good thing that added to that lure, was to be able to keep that lure in the zone a lot longer. Yep.
So thank Mick. So basically now we're going to run into, you know, probably one of the things I'm most proud about Rapala the last couple of years is the trophy hunters and the Rookies app. So let's cross over to it now. The team at Rapala is really excited to introduce you to the Rapala Rookies. Basically, all you need to do is download the Rapala Trophy Hunters app off the App Store, select the Rookie section, grab your kids in a Rapala lure, and go out and have some fun. Woohoo! High five. That was all you.
I'm a Rapala Rookie.
There are 18 different categories that you can go and fish for, the 17 species of the Trophy Hunter app, and then my favourite, the Classic Catch. So any other species you get, you're eligible for one of these badges.
All you have to be 16 years or younger.
Catch a fish in the Rapala lure.
And the great thing for the kids is there's no size limit. All you need to do is catch a fish of that species, doesn't matter what size it is, and you'll get one of these badges. We'll also have some great prizes at the end of the year for each category, and also the Rapala Rookie of the Year will get a $500 retail prize pack. So get out there, go fishing, have a lot of fun, and get rewarded for doing it.
Now you're a Rapala Rookie.
You.
Hi, I'm Riley Morgan and I'm doing the Rapala Rookies wrap up for 2025. This year we've had over 300 entries into the Rookies app, with entries in every single category, which is awesome. It is obvious to see that the younger anglers love the Crush City, with over 95% of fish being caught on the Crush City shapes. These are the trending fish recently. Flathead in all Crush City shapes. Brim in my favourite colour, the Creeper Bloodworm. Banana Prawn. Motor Oil UV and Purple Haze. Snapper in bait fish colours in the Jerk and Suspect. And Kingfish in the Jerk in Bombshell. Looking at the leaderboard, the top 7 contenders for Rookie of the Year are Hayden Land with 9 fish, Angus Weeks with 9 fish, Isaac Roberts with 9 fish, Henry Weeks with 10 fish, Thomas Weeks with 10 fish, Lewis Campbell with 10 fish, and our current leader, Harper Island, with 11 fish. This month's shows focused on Barra, and here are the rookies that have caught Barra so far. Hayden Land with a 79cm Barra on a Rapala Xrap saltwater. Jesse McCarthy with a 50cm Barra on a 4.5-inch imposter. And Isaac Chaplin with a 56 and 57cm Barra on a 3-inch heavy hitter. That's a wrap up on this segment. It's looking great so far this year. Get some Rapala lures, hustle your parents, go out for a fish, and I might be reading your name next month. Crush it.
G'day everyone, it's Tim and Mick here from Rapala Australia, and we're super excited to introduce you to the competition we're running for the rest of the year, which is the Rapala Trophy Hunters. Basically, we picked out 17 species of fish you can target anywhere around Australia. You catch a fish in a trophy size for that species, we'll send you out one of these badges. How do they enter, Mick?
It's pretty easy, mate. All you need to do is go to the App Store, look for the Rapala Trophy Hunters app. It's available both on Android and Apple phones. All you need to do, once you've downloaded that app, go in there, create yourself a profile. Then all you need to do, get out there, catch some of those trophy-sized fish on the Rapala, go back into the app, enter them in the app, and then any of those corresponding fish will send you out a badge.
And through that app, it's actually a live scoreboard. So you can go on any time, see who's got the biggest fish of a certain species, see what fish species are getting caught in your state, and also what the secret lures people are using to catch those fish. So you can go pick yourself up a Rapala and get one of these badges yourself. But then also the competition is that the person who has the longest fish in each of these 17 species will get a $200 retail prize pack at the end of the year. And the best one of all is the Rapala Angler of the Year. So the angler that can get the most amount of badges by the end of the year will get a $2,000 Rapala prize pack. I'll be shooting for that. What are you going to start fishing for first, Nick?
Of course, I'm going to go and have a crack at me jack, mate. I've actually snuck out and already got one, by the way. And I've actually put it up on a frame. I'm pretty proud of me jack. It was 59cm one on my favourite heavy hitter red dog. So yeah, got the badge in the corner and a bit of a picture of the fish so I can chuck it in my fishing room.
So that's a great memento for that, mate. And you know, I may have snuck out as well, mate. And I managed to jag myself a 122 Barra on Xrap Peto. And mate, I would have put mine in a small frame like yours, but the fish didn't fit, so I had to put it in this big one. But again, got the badge on there, mate. I'll hang it up in my fishing room here, and it's great memories for now and forever when you look at it.
100%, mate.
So make sure you download the app, have a go at the comp, and win yourself some prizes. So, Mick, it's been a great start to the year already with over 70 entries already into the Trophy Hunter app. So some real quality fish getting caught on Rapala lures. We've got entrants into every category except redfin, perch, Murray cod and trout. And I know that Rapala are iconic for trout lures. So if you think you can catch a 1 metre Murray cod, a 45 centimetre redfin perch or a 60 centimetre trout on a Rapala lure, get out there because there's a Trophy Hunter badge with your name on it.
And also at the end of the year, the winner of that category will get a $200 prize pack. So it's something to sort of strive for, I reckon, as well. So.
And what also has been good, it's been great to see that it's been a pretty even mix, like the rookies. Soft plastics. Kids love
100%.
fishing with soft plastics, but with the trophy hunters, the adults, but there's plenty of kids in here as well. It's been a pretty even mix between hard bodies and soft plastic lures to get those trophy hunter badges.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you're targeting, the trophy hunters is about targeting a trophy fish, whereas the rookies is about catching any fish. Whereas some of our hard body baits, they're designed to target some of those larger fish. That's probably why we're seeing some of the catch rates in the hard body section, as well as the soft plastics or our Crush City range of plastics as well.
But leading the race for Trophy Hunters Angler of the Year, we've got a father and son, Waldo and Hudson Hussey from WA. They've been battling it out so far this year with 6 badges each, and they've caught some great fish, including mulloway, tailor, mackerel, trevally, snapper, Australian salmon and tuna.
Yeah, they live in a pretty awesome part of the world too. I actually had a look at where they lived. It's called the Useless Loop. It's in WA. I think it's like a salt mine there, but I think it's like some of the pristine waters over in WA. So you can, hence why they're catching such a great variety of fish. So if you want to try and have a crack at beating these guys, definitely get out there, use some of our Rapala Crush City and some of our Rapala hard bodies and try and knock them off the podium.
Yeah, no, it's. I wonder who's going to end up on top, father or son.
Yeah, that's it. If it's anything like our families, we're quite competitive. So I can imagine, the father and son would be quite competitive on the boat as well. So
no, you got to go to school today, son. I'm going fishing. I can see a bit of that happening. We've also seen some great captures in other categories as well, like Spanish mackerel, ranging between 117 and 130 centimetres, with Waldo leading that so far.
Yeah, that's a big, decent size Spanish there, 130. But also we've got obviously brim have been quite popular in the rookies, but also in the trophy hunters, and we've actually got 4 contenders at the moment running for the biggest brim: Adam Walsh, Dean Cummings, Lewis Campbell, and Thomas Weeks. They're the ones that, if you want to have a crack at getting that title at the end of the year, you've got to try and beat these fellas.
And the race for the Australian bass is also pretty tight. There's a heap of people within a few centimetres each other, but the top 4 at the moment are Jaden Hawkins, Mark van der Westen, Mitch Petty, and Tyler Bryant.
Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. Mitchy's one of our staff members, so he's actually not eligible for the prize at the end of the year, but it's good to see that one of our staff members is out there getting amongst some of those decent bass.
And I can almost guarantee he caught that on a DT20
100%,
because when he's sort of probably one of the experts at deep cranking, long lining, getting the lure down there, and he loves doing it. Yeah. And he's caught plenty of trophy
Whenever
bass.
we get a new lure in, he's always saying, I'm going to long line that thing and try and get it down as deep as I can. But so that's pretty cool.
He goes 20 foot. I can long line that down to 30.
Yeah, that's it. But also now, at the end, because this is a Barra show, the last one, we've got a few entries into that. One of our pro staffers, Ben Barker's leading that with an absolute cracker, 121 Teamborough Barra on our Crush City jerk, 7-inch. So obviously what Timmy and Jacob did on the Barra tour has obviously flowed through to, everyone out there, that technique's such a great technique. So, cracking fish, Ben. Also, the other one's in contention is this bloke here, Tim Morgan, with I think it's a 111 or something like that.
On a 7-inch jerk as well.
Yeah, again, same deal. Nelson Phillips and also Timmy's brother Steve, and I think that's on a jerk as well.
Yeah, that was on a 5-inch jerk, I think, 105, bit smaller than mine, but we all know I'm the better Morgan Barra fisherman.
Yeah, that's it. We always have that joke in the office, who's the best at what, and Timmy's reigning champion Barra fisherman at the moment.
Yeah, so look out. But no, we're really excited about the Trophy Hunters app. If you haven't got it, just go into your app store, download the Rapala Trophy Hunters app. You can see the gallery of all these fish we've been talking about, and you get yourself a Rapala lure and go and try and get on it. Cool. So that was a wrap up of the Trophy Hunters and Rookies. Probably, I think one apart from Crush City, probably the thing I'm most proud about.
Yeah.
I think getting kids out on the water fishing away from their computer screens is probably the most important thing we can do as a society and as a parent of the kids now. But yeah, it's great to reward them, and it's good to see kids out there getting some really good numbers of fish.
Yeah, and as you see, there's quite a few of them that are all right up there with quite a lot of badges. So, you know, obviously there's a lot of young kids out there, love their fishing, and it's really good to see that they're out there, especially using Rapala products too.
Yeah, and I think just by giving that little badge, you know, it's a sensitive achievement for them. And I think with the rookies, we've got the classic catch as well. So it doesn't matter if it's a toadfish this big, if they catch it on a lure, you know, they have a good experience and hopefully want to go fishing again. So therefore, you can go fishing more as well. So, so that's pretty much a wrap for the show tonight. We've got a few questions that people have asked, so let's run through those now, and then we'll announce the winner of the comp. So basically, do we still sell Suffix 131 braid? They like it, cast really well. Unfortunately, sales weren't big enough into Australia to do it. I really like the lighter lines for the brim and bass finesse fishing. Probably wasn't as abrasion resistant as the Suffix 832, but it's a long way of saying, no, we don't do it in Australia anymore. I think there is one shop in, actually, I will do a shameless plug here, Complete Angler Dandenong. I think we do indent it in for them, so they do sell it in Australia. If you look them up, you'll be able to get it.
The next question, Timmy, do we still make the bigger Walk the Dogs? I can't remember the name. I remember using the red and white one and also a clear one. Maybe the Sub Walk or
the Skitter Walk. I think the Skitter Walk was, and I probably should have got one. I saw this question. I've got some here. They used to be my favourite, probably Barra surface lure for 10 years, I reckon, to the dams. There was a 13 centimetre one, cast a mile, similar to the Precision. It had that one knock rattle in it, really easy to walk, and it was a big fish catcher, and had a really, really good hookup rate on it as well because it's pretty low in the water. So
this might be your next choice, mate. It's going to be coming out later in the year. It does walk the dog really easy, got good acoustics, one big knocker, and that jowler, the face is why they call it the jowler. It every time it walks, it just does a nice little spitting action. So this might be your next favourite barra lure, mate.
Sweet. You can do that one last. What top water lure do we have for Murray cod, and any plans to make more in the future? Probably the same as the Barra lures. We've I know when we did the release for the Precision Pencil, you went and caught some really, really nice Murray cod in northern New South Wales on it. And again, I think that jowler with that spitting action, we'll call them in. We don't do any of the, like I know a lot of guys like using the big paddlers. A lot of local lure makers make them. No, we won't have anything like that, but those walk the dog ones will catch big cod and we'll have them. Bring back the knockers.
Yeah.
Nicky Strickland.
Nicky Strickland, bring back the knockers. Are you talking about the little metal weights or something else? But unfortunately, they were in a Storm product. And we have tried looking to see if we can get more in, because there's a few guys that sneakily put it in some of their soft plastic lures for an extra sound in the water. So unfortunately, no, we don't have stock of those knockers anymore. So
sweet. So getting now to the winner of the what Rapala lure you like and what species it is. What Rapala lure was it that Aaron Johnson from YouTube loves throwing, Jesse?
He said, "Love the imposter, hardly leaves my rod, estuary slayer."
Yes, cool. And I agree with that. That's imposter is a slayer. So congratulations, Aaron. Get in contact us through Facebook and we'll get that prize out to you.
So yeah, we're pretty excited to bring this show to you tonight. That's pretty much a wrap for us. Hopefully you've come away with a little bit of information on some of our product and how we use them on Rapala. We've enjoyed doing it. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it, and we look forward to bringing you another episode later on.
Good night. Big Dog.
Yeah, Big Dog.
This is Big Dog
I'm,
says it's bedtime, kids.
Yeah, that was about half an hour ago.